Hello. How's everybody doing? Cheesier, you're always one of the first ones here. Can you hear me? Sounds... All right. So, it's Friday. We'll let some people trickle in here now that I'm going live. Let them get the notifications out. And we will get started. How is everyone doing? Hey, Ninjatron, how are you? Titus, welcome. How's everybody doing? Wow. Hey, David, how you doing? If you guys were here last week, yeah, I got cut off by a storm, so that was unfortunate, but everything flickered, and then it just took too long to have everything come back, and it wasn't going to come back well, so sorry about that, but we had a good chat going, so hopefully we can get that going a little bit again tonight. So we're down here in the studio again. I am Aaron Archer. This is the Toy Armada Live. I'm Aaron Archer. I was a 20-year toy designer at Kenner Hasbro, and I still freelance for different companies making products. But I spent a long time on Transformers, and we mostly talk about that and sometimes about Batman and just toys in general and manufacturing processes and why companies do some of the things they do, that kind of stuff. So that is what we're here to do. I'm going to start by talking about Armada Hot Shot a little bit today on the deep dive. Then I got a few new little features that I'm going to kind of wheel out, and then we'll have some Q&A and see if we can get that conversation started. And the cat is around. So yeah, I wanted to talk about this guy today. How about I do it that way? Armada Hot Shot has a lot of history, this one. One of the first models that we kind of started developing, we knew that there would be a sports car. And we probably knew that we wanted it yellow. I'm not really sure we consciously talked about it, but we understood it was the Bumblebee type of character that we were looking to make. So we weren't trying to copy anywhere near a VW at that time. But what came out was a little bit of an Audi TT mixed with some other things that were happening at the time. And of all the Armada characters that we talk about, this guy is probably the one that's most overbuilt for his class or price point, and compared to any of the other ones, right? So he's got almost way too many things. I don't have all his parts here, so I'm going to have to use the old substitute. Rather than a paper clip, I'll grab a different mini con. Let's see if that works. What do I got here? I use a Squashmallow as my back. All right, sorry about that. So I think I got, who is this? Is that Safeguard? I didn't know if you got a different name. I think this is a Redeco version. Okay, so Hot Shot was designed to be able to have his engine up here. And that was one of the extra features that he has that none of the other ones seem to have, where he has a whole separate engine that triggers an extra kind of car feature. This was born out of early models in those early days of Armada development before we knew what it would really be. And this kind of stuff, the models would get overloaded. His Minicon would sit on the back, obviously. It's got 3 Minicon ports visible right there. So kind of interesting because the engine part is unnecessary. It's an extra kind of weapon that most of the rest of the items wouldn't have. So kind of strange. Run over. All right. How's everybody doing? Hey, T-Formers 2002 Hope Van Comedy. Thank you, David. Oh, is that not the right name? We've started a debate already. So here is one of the things I always talk about. Cardinal sin of toy design, in my mind, at Hasbro. Never transform the items in front of people. It is like one of those things, like watching someone play a video game. You'd want to go this way, but they're going this way, and you're aggravated. Watching someone transform Transformers, as you know, is very organic to how you like to do it, where you put the threshold of the tolerances of the plastic, how you like to twist the parts and whatnot, in what order. And so it's just funny that I'm doing this in front of y'all because this is something I would have dreaded doing in front of management, because they would always see it as, you're going too slow. Is that fun? Does that make sense? You do it that way and then that way? And they'd come up with these really dumb questions. And then they would think it was too complex because I was trying not to break a model, or whoever was trying not to break a model, because this happened over for years. And really they would start second guessing, is that too much trouble for kids? And it was just really annoying at times. So we just kind of hid that aspect of it. We would get 2 models, and we started explaining that they were models, that they couldn't be transformed at all. So, that's how we got around it. So then you get this guy. He follows my rule or design theory, I guess, that as I was designing these guys, I thought of them as characters. So if he is a race car, he has a race car kind of mentality. So that's why he's got the kind of helmet with visor that's very much like any racing league. He's got the obvious harness safety belt that I actually think I was inspired to put that in there after they came up with that 5-point harness after Dale Earnhardt Jr. Passed away. So that conveys that it's a racing character. His vehicle is imbibed with his personality is imbibed with his vehicle and his flow and everything. So that was the way I thought of it. Now, in Japan, one of the extra features that they had that wasn't in the Western market was the light in the hand that would light up the Star Saber sword and other clear things. So we did not have that feature of all the features, but even the moving visor here is a little bit of a extra, right? So, and then his Minicon Jolt in that case would activate the bazooka. And I don't know how it did it a second whammy anymore, but how did that happen? Wow. Second trigger even. Okay, so there you go. And then you had this big overt projectile launcher bazooka thing, which, it's the whole axle of the car. This is my kind of comedy, I guess, or design theory. If that's I've designed a lot of projectile launchers for Batman, or saw them being designed and whatnot. So why not use that space and everything as the launcher? That was the idea there. So Hot Shot here has triggered feet, would have had a light in Japan, double triggered this, a Minicon, projectile launcher, a moving visor. decent paint, I guess, for what it is. You know, it doesn't have the transparent mold, you know, so those are all painted out windows. This is one of those early days where we were doing that. I don't know if that's a good or a bad, but that's what we were doing. You'll start to notice on all your products a bluish gray or silver blue, metallic blue on almost every item, or a drab blue, gray blue. I think of Cyclonus. A lot of my items are going to have that color pattern. So, you know, and as a result of here's another aspect of Armada that we don't often talk about, but because of this overt feature being the goal, putting the Minicon on and making that happen, we talked a lot about the transformation being intuitive and really straightforward. So these early Transformers on Armada, you know, they chunk together, and you can kind of close them up and squeeze them, and you know you're done. There's not a lot of intricacy trying to be finesse with the puzzle aspect of these things. They're pretty straightforward, and that was the word we used internally, was intuitive, as to make it not easy. That wasn't what we were trying to do, but we definitely weren't trying to do what the Car Brothers and RID did, you know, the Lamborghini and whatnot. Oh my goodness. We were definitely not trying to do that. So, so that is the story of kind of how this one got crafted. But then there was a middle ground where people have seen another model that had a slightly more articulated figure, and I think that model got kind of costed around, and even I think that those were decisions made on the Japan Tokyo side. I think they realized there was a lot of promise in that model, and probably wasn't going to hit the price points that we were trying to do. So there is that lonely model out there. Another thing that we were doing in Armada were how we handled the icons, sigils, logos, masks. What are we going to call them, folks? We were kind of just using a full blob of color back then. Really weren't trying to do the finesse thing. And it was before we started using tampo printing, because it was just easier. I don't know why we were doing that, other than I really do like to brand the plastic to know what you're playing with. But in the end, it was a lot of paint, and it's also, if Hasbro wanted to recolor this item as a Decepticon, you know, they're stuck with doing some tooling work in the mold to at least wipe that out. So that would be, you know, a problem. Wouldn't make it as turnkey, you know. I've never been happy with these headlights, you know, being molded that way, but that's another factor when you're trying not to have clear molds. You make you got to paint a lot of different things. When you get a clear mold, it kind of automatically is a paint op for color change. Wow, I can't believe there's red paint up in there. That's excessive. So that's me not knowing what I was doing. I would have rather taken those 2 or 3, 4 paint ops and maybe carried more back into here, but maybe put the white actually in the logo. Finished off some of the figure, perhaps. So that's unfortunate. Yellow is also a translucent plastic, so you can see the paint on the inside of that door panel because it comes through. Yellow doesn't really go that opaque at times, depending on the thinness of the plastic. So when we were developing this, I had a designer that was at Hasbro. Now he designs cars, a guy named Chris Welsh, help visualize this. And so this is kind of how he converted the TT into something unique and new. So any questions on Hot Shot at the moment? Yeah, Alternators tracks. The yellow on that was an issue, and that's why we didn't get one right away or ever. Again, my mind's a little foggy on what did come out and what came out in Japan versus here, so I apologize. Yeah, I don't have the new versions. I haven't pulled the trigger on those yet. Anybody gets duplicates, send them my way. But yeah, I haven't, so I don't know. But I do like the look of it. They're doing a really well with picking the things that I thought were unique about the character. Someone's interpreting those toys well. So when there is a deficiency, in the case of articulation for this guy in the shoulders and whatnot, that they fixed it. And same with the Armada Optimus, the Super Optimus not having that mobility and posability. So that's really cool that they can make it better, because these are built around spring-loaded features, right? And that was the gimmick. Those mini cons were going to go on here and make things happen. So you have to build in a lot of spring and mechanical area for that to happen. So they just couldn't be overly complex as a result. So that's how we got this guy. How would you adjust Hot Shot with the foresight of how you adjusted the line? I try to make the shoulders a little bit more cool. I hate that his fists are always kind of locked in those shields of the top of the car a little bit. I don't care about clear molds as much. That's not really a priority for me often. But I did like the little engine, I think. So, yeah. Yeah. Decepticon repaint. Yeah, I don't know. It would have to be like, I don't know, one of the drag. It couldn't be drag strip. I don't know. So that is the story of Hot Shot. In the yearbook here, you can tell that he had a lot of feature and the model had a lot of things, because they got all kinds of stuff here. They have him using the sword, using the cannon. He's got a whole gun and whatnot. So they had that model early. I don't remember this part. But and obviously had a lot of animation planned around it as a result. Using those cutters on the front of the car. It's tough to see. So so he was definitely an early one. Definitely knew that who's going to be a main kind of character. Ideally, he would be kind of lovable and likable. I think overall he was. As you know, I don't watch the shows as diligently as you all might. But seems to be fondly remembered, and people latched on to him. I wish I would have kept him more consistent as we went forward. I would say that about all of them, Red Alert and all of them. Although I say that now, and knowing that the movie was coming, I would just have added to the clutter of yellow sports cars, 3 years earlier than we got it. So maybe it was all okay in the end. But yeah, as they re-release these guys, I do hope they figure out how to do their mini cons. It's a shame. It's a shame that that's not happening. So I was going to start something different today. I'm going to also for 10 minutes or so. So I'm doing pretty good. I like to talk about something for 20 minutes now, and I'm going to do another thing for 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe, and then we can do Q&A. So thanks for being here. I kind of figured it'd be interesting to do something I'm going to call How'd You Get This Way? Okay. So I've met a lot of people at shows, and we talk about the robots, and we talk about why I made decisions about toys and the shows or what all these kinds of things. But I figured, like, how did I get this way to be interested in all this kind of stuff and be able to get into, how did I get into it? So first and foremost, this book right here, 2nd grade, this book right here. There's others. There's a whole series of them. Wolfman, King Kong, Frankenstein. It doesn't matter. This book right here, and this dude right here on Saturday afternoon. Definitely got me drawing creatures, got me into monsters, and I haven't really in some ways looked back. So that if you see my name anywhere as Archer Monster, that is because I enjoy drawing monsters. And my first love was the Saturday afternoon reruns of various Godzilla or costumed movies. I know they got names. Ninjatron, again, tell me what their names are. But these costumed movies from Japan, and the textures and just the craziness of it all. I'm definitely not deep in the weeds about really gotta be really super cool. I just like cool stuff, so those were like cool textures, and look, I'm flying around and smoking and all that stuff. Really cool. So I'm going to use that as the first example of how did you get that way? Godzilla. So I'll probably, start adding Godzilla and then other stuff around, or I'm pulling these things off the shelf. So that's an inspiration. That's a kind of a point of, that is why you got Godzilla homages in Energon. Absolutely. And even some of my other Dinobot guys, because I like Godzilla. So, and so do the Japanese designers at Takara. So that was reference. That's kind of stuff I took in. And then one other thing that kind of helped me get this way, I'm going to show this one, was this thing right here. This came out in the early 80s or 70s. Look, they don't make boxes like this anymore. This came with a plug-in light table. I don't dare plug it in today because I'll probably burn the house down. Plastic. But this was my first light table. This isn't my original one, but I saw it at a show a few years ago, and I had to have it. And it came with a folder full of tracing paper and scenes from Marvel Comics, kind of down, without the words and things, that you could trace. It even came with some pencils and things. This envelope's not open. because, you know, I'm kind of a nerd that way. But I spent a good few years with that light table and using that technique to learn how to draw stuff and draw stuff backwards and everything else. So those are two very early kind of second grade influences of how I got this way. So there you go. Tried that out. So every week now I'll try to pull out different things that maybe people can go look on after, because maybe I'll pull something out you don't know about, something from, you know, Korea or whatever, or you do know about it. We can talk about it and jam on it. So that is what I have prepared. So let me read some things here. You're watching the Toy Armada. I'm Aaron. Thanks for being here. I am a veteran toy designer who talks about toys. Wow. Robust conversation today. Did we ever figure out which Minicon I had? Yeah, I'm fuzzy on some of the redecos and things that may or may not have come out with Hot Shot. We had a couple different groups doing things and ideas that got pitched a lot. Yeah, Ninjatron. Do you have that book? Yeah. Yeah. No, I saw this at a show. So if you grew up in the 70s, in the early 80s, this was the book. I was at a comic book or a toy show, and a guy had a few other ones. He had like the Mad Scientists and I don't know, the Wolfman. I just wasn't into those. I should have got them, but I didn't, because I was so happy to see this one in a really good condition. You know, not too messed up at all. I think I got it for $20. So unbelievable find. Unbelievable find. And that's where it was in our school library. I think that was a book that was made for school libraries, because everybody I know who's ever seen it and talked about it, definitely, it was from school, remembering it from elementary school libraries. Oh, okay. It was Safeguard. All right. Good. Look, there's a few things I might remember. Yes, these are the secret origins of Aaron Archer. If there's nothing else I know about, I can talk about things that help me get to the ways that I got to help you guys with the Transformers, right? So we'll see how this goes. Yeah, my guy, man, every kid's different. I'm still playing. My kid is 8, and he is knee deep in original Nintendo Wii. I just got a Wii Fit board this week. So my guy doesn't even bother with my stuff. It's just a bunch of colorful plastic to him. It's funny, isn't it? Anyway, what are the most difficult ideas to get approved for figure lines? That's a good question. It can come down to a lot of things. That's a lot of things. So Tyrone, that's a good thing to start talking about. You know, does it always, you know, practically you got to think about business first. Does it have a show? Is there a movie? How many episodes? Who's in it? What's it about? Is there other deals going on? So those are basic things. But then there's other things like, do you already have something that competes in that space? Are they both, you know, superhero themes, or do you already have something that's knights or pirates or too close to your, you know, cute animal property, you know, things like that. So you think defensively and offensively in that case. So sometimes the hardest figures and things to make, I don't know about lines, are things that are almost popular or popular within a certain set of people, but it's not maybe quite mainstream. And you see this even with the Marvel movies, things like the original Black Panther and the different ones where Ant-Man, where Guardians of the Galaxy, where they don't make a lot of product right away. It's some featured product because it's risk averse. Back in my day, there were no one-off things like an Ant-Man or Guardians of the Galaxy product the way they made it originally, one-offs. So that's a factor. Things that are without entertainment definitely are hard to get proof. So Zevos, if you're familiar with a line that Hasbro made of buildable kind of iconic class of figures, they were all themed, skeleton, robot, kind of Frankenstein, wolf guy, Hawkman type things. Zevos was awesome, but it didn't have any kind of entertainment to get extra buzz going about it or drive it in a different way. It was, just the wrong pre-digital world that it came out in, that it couldn't take advantage of its app connectivity or something. So great lines could perish or not get approved just because of that. There's just not enough fire to launch the rocket, if I can use that as a metaphor. So that was a good question. Thank you. Were you disappointed when you found out that the light up gimmick had been taken out of the US version of Hot Shot? No, those were practical decisions about costing. At the end of the day, as a toy designer, I can fall in love with my designs. I could really fight for things that I think need to be there, and all these kinds of things. But your job is to spend the money that you have to make the best product you can, and to assemble that product in a way, or work with people to make it the best action you can put in a product. So when you lose a feature or something, it's just practical whittling down of what you can afford. So on the outside, it also often seems like, oh, they took that feature out, or, oh, that's tragic. We don't have as much paint. But it's just the practical nature of this is a business, and the items have to hit cost, regardless of how much I might want that extra paint op or something, or I really think it looks cool. So I don't really get disappointed, or didn't get disappointed. I'm very practical in that regard. Ooh. In the reissue line, we got Stepper Ricochet, who was a new character, to Western audiences. Was this considered a gamble? Was there any plan to also do Artfire or any of the other Japan exclusive molds? Good question, Dan. First of all, let's talk about Stepper / Ricochet. We couldn't use the name Stepper for some reason. I named him Ricochet for no really good reason other than the character was coming back, like Ricochet. And it was also a movie that I kind of enjoyed, a weird movie at one time. So I just thought it was an interesting name. I think the reason that character came into our market was the reissue lines were doing well, and we needed a little bit more product in that mold. That was a legitimate color mold. I don't remember the discussion with Takara, good or bad, how that was considered, because that is a rarer item, as I understand it. Man, that cat is always into it. Always into it. We barely looked at Artfire. or any of the other exclusives at that time. It was kind of phasing out, so Artfire never really came into play. So that's kind of how that one went. If you were given the opportunity, would you have implemented more voice lines into the toys of the actual voice actors if they were able to do them themselves? Well, here's the unfortunate issue. There is the electronic boxes and batteries were expensive and large. If you're going to put that kind of money into the product, you kind of want to be able to how should I say it? You want to be able to see it, okay? And you it just isn't always the value that it needs to be. It's pumped through little speakers and little not the highest quality of electronics quality being pumped out, has no bass. So not all the voices that you might have of famous people or iconic voices will come out the way you want them to. And to make them more robust, to come out more like the animation or whatnot, you have to put more money into a better speaker, a better chip, might have to have more battery power. You want to have that try me on the shelf, so then maybe the battery needs to be even more robust. So, and then you get into the rights of the actor. Is it a movie toy or whatever? Do you have those lines from the cartoon at the time you're making the product? Are you using sound-alikes? So is all that expense worth it by the time you have a sound-alike? And do voices bring value to someone who wants to make or just wants to play with a compelling puzzle toy of a Transformer? Because if I'm putting a lot of money into the speaker and that robust chip and a battery pack and scale, I'm obviously taking away from the volume of the product to transform it. So a long-winded answer to explain myself, but the answer is no. It just was too much of an expense when we could do things like the base of the kind of reissued 20th anniversary Optimus, where you could hit the Autobot logo there and icon sigil mask, and hear voice or sound. That's great. That's a great way to do it. So we've done it in G.I. Joe that way with the separate sound boxes with the logos. Oh boy, let me get this cat. Where are you at? You know, it's not the 8-year-old. Let's see if that gets him out of there. Ay, ay, ay. It's all going to come tumbling down. Yeah. All right. There we go. Man. I did a Riddler in Batman Forever. The one that came with the big sound box. Yeah. Although multiple people worked on that one. So, okay. So did I explain myself well on the reasons why a voice actor chip thing wasn't very good in Transformers and why I didn't consider it too often? So hope that explained that. I will admit that it would have been very cool, but the technology I had to work with in the budget just did not have the ability to do that. All right, man. The hour is flying by. It's already 10:41. So thanks for being here. You are watching the Toy Armada. And Aaron, get a cat out of a closet. Thanks for sticking with me. Yeah, my cat seems to be a guest star every week. Yeah, I have 2 doors back here. I'm trying to make this one a better shelf, and this one I got all my art junk in there. Um, you know, no one needs to see the gouache and the everything else. Gouache is a type of paint, if you don't know. Holy moly, Dan, where are you at? Man. On the voice actor chips, I absolutely love the animated bumper battlers for being such a diverse range of voice actors. It can be an asset if you can lean into it, and if you have access to chips and things like we did on Star Wars Comtech. It can be really interesting to play with that type of technology. But if the voices and actions and emphasis isn't there, it's not always a good reason to just put it in. Unless you're doing like Toy Story, you need iconic phrases and things. Then it's a really good way to do it. So it'd be easier to do with Peter Cullen's phrases than probably Armada era phrases, right? Yeah, squash is kind of difficult to use. Yeah, it's an opaque watercolor, people, if you don't know. And if you put too much water back into it, when you add more color, it can lift it and then start mixing in a way you don't want it to. So it's very deliberate. It's like that 70s Ralph McQuarrie art kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I got everything now. I got acrylic, squash, watercolor, paint pens, inks. Between my wife, she does the other half: quilting, glass, all kinds. Photography, Japanese box making. So between the two of us, we have every tool available. We live in an art house. So, was there any ever thought of bringing the Robot Master toys to the US, or were they just not cost effective? Okay, the Robot Masters, that was that short line of basic or less scaled product that Takara put out with mostly redecos and a couple new interesting characters. Yeah, they had different costing structure. That was to fill out their line when they didn't have the cartoon and things, with some of the gap they had. So they invested in that tooling when it was new, and we were committed on the Armada stuff or Energon stuff at that point, that we didn't participate in those tools, so we didn't really have access quite exactly. Or it was I don't want to get in the nitty gritty, but it was a different layout of the deal if they had already made their own tools and we wanted to use them. So sometimes it just didn't make sense. So I don't think we considered it for too long if we did. I believe gouache. I believe gouache held its color, and it's not reflective. So I guess that would make sense that it could be photographed and scanned and whatnot, and not kick back. And that's probably the benefit of it. That would make sense. I kind of got out of it. I like using it, but the way I draw is very chaotic and fast, and it just takes too much time to mix those colors and wait, and all that. I don't have the patience anymore. Let's find another question here. Oh, Christian Russell. I don't think I've heard you talk about Transformer Heroes before, the concept before animated. Anything you'd like to share about that? Well, I think that'd be an interesting whole long conversation, but basically I'll top line what the effort was, just to start the buzz, I guess. So we finished the 3 Unicron trilogy shows, and we knew we wanted to do something different. Cartoon Network wasn't involved initially. I don't know why we weren't talking. Maybe we were going to talk to a Japanese partner again. I'm not sure. But we started on this road for ourselves of trying to discover new form factors and kind of a new layout of the team at that time. So we did kind of boards, and it had words and like other brands, pictures and stuff. So like Optimus had Captain America and Superman, and kind of trying to rebuild them as heroes. Like what is iconic about these guys? This was all in the early days of what we call the unified continuity or whatever, but it was really trying an exercise of trying to understand the characters. So when we talked about them, we knew what we were dealing with. So we worked with a company to do, 2 writers, to take our ideas of that were kind of new things we wanted to try, and write a spec script essentially that we were going to go then pitch around. And at that time, it's like Cartoon Network got in the mix, saw what we were willing to do, that we were willing to do something different. It didn't have to be G1, and blocky. We could get a whole different style approach to it. And at the time, they really liked the change in style. I think they still do. So that's kind of where I'll end that discussion. But so there's a spec script, there's a lot of artwork, and that artwork in part inspired like Bulkhead and a few of the other things. But there were really cool concepts that fell off as well, that I wish could have been added in to somewhere. But we will talk more about that at a future date. So I hope that was good. Least favorite Unicron trilogy figure you worked on? Least favorite, I got different ones for different reasons. Good question. I don't really know. Smokescreen's too easy. So Sideways from Armada. Maybe the swords. Probably the swords. Speaking of 20th anniversary Optimus, how does it feel knowing that basically inadvertently began Masterpiece, and how it's the longest running Transformer line? That it's. I think it's really cool to be a part of that, and it is cool that we kickstarted that in such a momentous way. I mean, right there it is, right? With no intention that it was going to be a line or could be a line. If anything, it was kind of the premium item that you could put your alternators around at the time. The idea that it's still going is cool. But I also don't want to get ahead of myself. Making an ultimate version of a G1 character is fun and straightforward, but how much credit can I take for that? I'm just glad I got it kickstarted, and that it it's worth continuing the way they've done it. It's pretty easy to, everybody likes chocolate chip cookies, right? So, but it is cool. I mean, I don't want to downplay it either, but it is cool. Wish I would have had more of them, I guess, along the way. I still wish I had the Victory and Star Saber and stuff. But anywho, yeah, an animated Hot Shot would be cool. That was a cool design. He got the proportion. I mean, he made it the right type of character, right? Because at the end of the day, I knew how to make characters. I wasn't trying to design character types. I didn't have the layout of that in my toys to do what Derek was able to do. So yeah, animated Hot Shot would be cool. I'm not familiar with the voice actors as much, so I don't know how to answer that one, Cheesier. Yeah, the early, 20th anniversary Optimus was awesome with the alternators around it because it had the very nice G1 scale for everything, and particularly if you had the Japanese version of the alternators with the metal and whatnot, very cool that way. Part of the design process of the canceled landslide repaint of Mudflap and Cybertron. No, that would have been Eric. So I'm not I'm vaguely familiar with that there were some color options, but I would not answer that one. Sorry. Alternator wheeljack. Yeah. Sometimes it was tough to know if transformation complexity was important or not important, and at what point it was too much, and every item is a little different, and some are rougher than others. So yeah, that wheeljack kind of is a pain in its own ways. Yep. If you remember the Spawn show from the 90s, he did the voice of Spawn there. Oh, okay. No, we talk about everything. We talk about the books, the reference, the toys. The Yellow Batmobile is a test shot that I got my first week at Kenner back in '95. So it is, what do you call it? I don't know. Velcroed to the wall there. Yeah, it's not quite the Ninja Batmobile, but I will have the Ninja Batmobile up there before too long. So if they made a new Armada Tidal Wave, do you think we had this question last week? As big as possible. That's what Tidal Wave, if they remake Tidal Wave, should be as big as possible. Do you like the way combiners came out in Energon? Well, that one's a tough one to answer. I liked how some of them came out. I do like the idea that they all could combine the way they did, the pants and shirts. I think it would have been better if we limited it to back then things were going well, right? So we had multiple waves. So I could say 8, 6, 8 of them, versus dozens of them, maybe make it a sub-segment would have been probably better. But I do like them. I do like the combining. I just, maybe we went overboard with it being over across all the segments, right? Or in Autobot. Is that the question you meant, hopefully? Well, Dan, speaking of Spawn, how much did that influence what Kenner were doing in the mid to late 90s? What I like to say about McFarlane's influence was he kind of gave permission to go further. If you think of Aliens and RoboCop and Terminator, Kenner was already doing adult, more adult themed, or perceived at that time as adult themed, right? Rated R movies. Toys, they just still were presenting them in the kid format, right? The kid vernacular with kind of oversized this or cap guns. And so what McFarlane got into was the larger figure and a little bit more accuracy and certainly some paint at the time, but really sculpting. It gave sculpting permission to go further and that make it cooler, more detailed. Things didn't have to be kind of soft, kind of kid, treated like it was kid. So how detailed does it need to be? So I definitely give him credit about sculpting getting even more better. And Kenner was already on its way, but it really let them unleash themselves by the time you get to Total Justice and different lines. Yeah. The idea, Dan, they're not maybe the best collectibles, I guess, but we're definitely going for that toy stuff. And actually, after we haven't gotten to the Energon long forms yet, and I should remind everybody that there will be a new long form very shortly. So look for that, please, on the Toy Armada with Aaron Archer. Get notified if you haven't, like and subscribe and all that good stuff. I appreciate it. Those were definitely toys in my era. So the Energon Combiner stuff. So we sacrificed different things to get that. Do you have a strong opinion on the packaging Transformers and robot or alt mode, putting aside any sales research they did? I'm old school and I like the vehicle. Mostly because I think it's fun because it's like it's the robot still in its package, right? You open it out of the package, but then it's still unknown, right? So you get to create or bring out the personality of the robot, the named character. And I get in the idea of promoting characters that it would be now in robot mode. But for me, I'm always going to go with the magic of the puzzle of the Transformer is bringing the robot out, which means you start with the vehicle. So thanks, Ragu Overlord. Appreciate that. Tyrone, appreciate it. Any potential convention appearances in the near future? I will be at Toronto TFCon. Obviously, I'm there every year now. Basically, that's one of my anchors, and I'll be at PowerCon in Columbus. I don't know about a few other toy shows in Ohio, Midwest area yet to say anything yet. So PowerCon in Columbus, a lot of fun. Couple day show. Used to be a He-Man show. They're expanding it to be more of a toy show. So they get all kinds of companies there and things that are selling kind of more small range toys. So yeah, that's fun. That's a fun show. I enjoy that. I get to see old buddies and things. Is it cheaper to package a toy in robot mode? I don't really know if it's cheaper either way. It might be a little bit, but nominal. If you were asked to do a panel, would you do it? I was going to help them on the Beast Wars one last year, but I don't go out to New York. So if I was going, maybe there would be panels, but I don't go out to the New York shows, so I'm not part of that stuff. Yeah, PowerCon was fun. It's only going to get bigger, So it's its first year in Columbus, kind of in the Midwest. 2 hours from my house, which is nice, but kind of can pull in a lot of the country. There's not a lot of big kind of cool toy shows in the area unless you want to go to Chicago. So I think it could be cool. Do I follow toy trends and walk? I definitely walk the shows. I mean, I'm interested in stuff too, but I'm looking at old 70s stuff, so I don't know if I'm following trends or whatnot. I follow my kids' interests and hobbies and stuff they ask me for, or they just look at the stores more to know what's kind of hip and happening in that regard. The shows I go to are, dusty old 70s toys and things if I'm lucky. Which Armada character would you draw as a Vargas pinup? That's funny you say that. I actually have a Vargas original, but not a pinup, but an illustration. How fluent in Japanese did you get working with Takara? I don't know. I could be in a business meeting and also maybe ask my way around. I could certainly communicate, the hellos and thank yous and kind of where I'm going and things. I wasn't saying I was conversationalist, but somehow the more beer at the end of the night of a dinner that I drank and the more beer at the end of the night, by the end of the night that they drank, I could understand their Japanese and they could understand my English. So somehow it all worked out. But I got pretty good. I was at one point probably knew the most Japanese or spoke the most Japanese in meetings and whatnot. But I haven't really used it for years, so I've lost a lot of it. What was my reaction to Shattered Glass concept when BotCon originally introduced it? It's funny. That's a good question. What I thought of it was great. That is a known concept. Just redeco things in opposite, and that is nothing we are ever gonna do. That is just too far out there to our core audience. And here we are. They're making that stuff for the main audience now. So it got made because it was an easy carve off for that purpose. But now it's another way to do re-echoes, right? So yeah, sometimes just it's getting loose and comfortable, and sometimes drinking is one way to do that. Not advocating that, but that's what we did then. Yep, Ninjatron, look at you, eagle eye. I see a Galvatron sticker, yep, I actually Derek gave me that Galvatron sticker when I saw him at I guess the last BotCon in Kentucky, right? Was he there at that one? Yeah. So that's, I do have that up there as a little tribute to Derek. So good eye. Appreciate you there, Ninja. So, all right. Well, we're past 11. Thanks everybody for coming. Good set of questions. I hope we answered some good questions for you and got some insights into whatnot. So definitely check out my Instagram, ArcherMonster_creative. Check out the other long forms if you haven't. Look for that new one. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're following along, I am doing new art every day on the Instagram. That one's, I've now colored it. These will be part of the next sketchbook and all that good stuff. So, and if you're interested in original art, hit me up on my website in the links there, and we can talk about it. So thanks for coming. Good chat, everybody. Hey, Ben Yee, how you doing? Were you there the whole time? So yeah, we'll do it again next week. If you got any preference about what I should talk about, please shoot it over. I'm always desperate to figure out what might be interesting for you guys to hear about. So There we go. All right. Coltron, David, Ben, wow, Ninja. See, it's like a convention every weekend. So I will see y'all next week. Thanks for coming. Bye.